It sounds like you guys have quite the party going on. My name is Tyler Shea Allen. I'm here doing a Native American virtual discussion with Cahokia Socialtech and Artspace. This is only the second virtual discussion I've hosted so far, so forgive me if I'm still a little rusty. I really want to thank them for showing up tonight. It looks like we're going to have a pretty intimate discussion this evening. I have a few questions, then if you guys want to elaborate further on anything, feel free. If you both would like to introduce yourselves, that would be awesome.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having us tonight. My name is Melody Lewis. I'm Mojave Tewan Hopi, born and raised on the Fort Mojave Indian Reservation and spent my summers in Palaka, Arizona in the Tewa Village. I am a founding member for Cahokia Socialtech and Artspace, the founder for Indigenous Community Collaborative, and the Director of Diversity for Tribal Health. Thank you for having me.
And hi, my name is Unique Yazi. I am a designer and application analyst, and I am one of the co-founding members of Cahokia, and also the founder and strategist for Indigenous Design Collab, which is a collaboration of designers that come together to activate space and kind of activate the creative community for Indigenous people in downtown Phoenix. Yeah, that's who I am. Oh, I don't think I mentioned I was Navajo.
Thank you. And I think I also forgot to mention I am Chickasaw Caddo. They're both Oklahoma tribes, but I was born and raised in Phoenix, so I'm a Phoenix native too. So the first question I wanted to ask you guys is one I'm sure you get asked a lot, but I'm dying to know, what was your inspiration behind creating Cahokia?
Just like, go for it. So I'm just gonna start out with what the meaning of the name of Cahokia, what Cahokia means, and then kind of elaborate further on. Hopefully that extends to like why we wanted to open a space in the first place. So Cahokia was an actual physical place that existed before Columbus came to what we call as Turtle Island, otherwise known as North America. And it was a place where Indigenous people would meet to create, innovate, and exchange ideas. So we call this place Cahokia because we want that to be the modern day version where Indigenous people meet to create, innovate, and exchange ideas. And so we just wanted to come together to contribute our skill strengths of what we have and give back to our communities in a place where we didn't think we were able to do it because we're both live off our reservations, right? And then we knew it was needed. So yeah.
Yeah, so to kind of share a little bit of the background of how we actually met and created this ideation and just the concept, we actually held an event that was called the Rise to Vote projection show last year during COVID, and it was right before the elections, and we realized that, you know, Native representation wasn't seen at higher levels of decision making, and so we decided to take it upon ourselves to really voice the need for Natives to vote and to get to the polls. And so we made a challenge, and we created a call for art, and we had designers submit posters and animations that we could project on a wall in downtown Phoenix. And along with this concept, we realized that we wanted to begin the conversation because nobody really knows the history of voting rights within the Native American communities. And so we presented the idea to Indigenous Community Collaborative, and we met at Churchill, which is right around the corner in one of our favorite spots. And we just started realizing that we both have a love for collaboration, and that this could be an awesome way to facilitate a lot of the conversation behind what skill sets, when skill sets come together and Native voices come together, what can actually happen. And so very grassroots, very community led, community inspired. And from that, we just started, kept looking at each other and saying like, we need a space to do this. We need something to like bring people and have them come together to talk about these ideas. And it just kind of formulated like that. And tonight we're having another one of those events. So it's pretty cool to see it all come to fruition.
I will add just like one more thought, just to extend of what Unique was saying, is that, when we both first came here to the city, or we enter into new spaces, we quickly realized that there's not very many natives that are in those spaces, right? So representation really does matter. And secondly, it's like when we're in those spaces, it's very contradicting to what we know and what we were raised culturally. And so when we're coming into these spaces, it's like it's shocking. It's all kinds of things, your emotions, you don't know what you're doing. And sometimes like when you do know what you're doing, you're dealing with all these different things of skill sets and understanding. So in addition to all that, is like our whole purpose is to help others uplift their work and to help guide them if they need assistance. So that's why we created Cahokia.
Thank you for sharing that. I really think it's interesting how an art space has political roots, and I'm not too surprised hearing more about your backgrounds, that such a versatile space comes from a lot of different roots. You mentioned a couple times how Indigenous representation is very important to you guys, and having a space for Indigenous representation is important. For those that might not be part of the Native community, how would you explain to them why Indigenous representation is important?
Yeah, so I'm originally from the Navajo Nation and come from a very rural community called Chinle, Arizona. It's near a tourist hub, which is Canyon de Chelly. And I grew up there knowing that a lot of outsiders, felt the need and wanted to visit spaces like the place I grew up in. And I would meet them every day, share my story and share, my background and what I could learn as far as from my family and from my grandma. And one thing that I know that I wasn't going to have a lot of opportunity in is jobs. Because of the rural community situations, there were a very limited amount of careers that you can go into. And so I was a creative. I love to pull people together. I also love to organize. And so one of the things is like I left my community to go find that skill set that I knew that would come from my passionate parts, like all the parts that I love to feed as far as like the growth and the direction that I wanted to go. And one of them was in computers. And so when I came out to Phoenix, Arizona, the one thing that I noticed in a lot of these spaces is that there wasn't any Native representation in the design or the arts world. Sorry. The design and arts world, and I soon got a job at ASU and realized that the students that were going to ASU were also facing the same experiences, except they were in a large scale, university, and they had a lot of separation, right? Whatever course you were in, it was hard to find somebody to create that community with. And a lot of times the students would drop out, and I would see it. My sister went to ASU, and so I would see a lot of her friends just disappear. Like, where did so-and-so go? Oh, they went back. They couldn't handle that cultural immersion and that change that was needed to like be successful. And so I would offer my office space for them to come whenever they needed a break, right, from the Western world or the world that they didn't realize. They would come into my space, and I would just talk ideas with them and say like, well, what can we do to create space? And so there was a lot of events that happened from just us being in that place. And so for me, representation really comes from when communities have a need, they need a place to come together and really like talk about what they want to do for their future, what they want to contribute to their communities. but then also like learning from their mentors. And so I think representation is definitely in the design world, one of the biggest things that I'm trying to tackle in my expertise, only because it's a very white male dominated industry. And so from working in the industry for the last 21 years, it's just been apparent that the indigenous way of thinking and indigenous way of design has always been around, and we have our history to kind of prove how we've been able to design and layer our culture, our stories, and functional items that are around us, like the basket, right? Or like pottery, rug weaving. We've just taken resources and we combined it with all of these essential things that we needed. And so I want to be able to tell that story, but sometimes people, you know, because I'm not talking in the Eurocentric way, don't take me seriously. And so there's like this conflict that ends up happening about, you know, are you really talking about design that everybody's going to pay attention to? When the reality is like, yeah, like there's just been thousands and thousands of years of people living here, designing things. So I should be able to talk in that authority. But again, it's all because of representation. Nobody really hears about how far indigenous thought process or design processes have kind of created our communities to be so sustainable.
And I come from a background of workforce development and education, and really trying to further support youth and other individuals into career fields, because not only, I mean, representation, yes, but we need more people in our communities doing the work for us and not non-Indigenous folk doing the work for us. And so we're really trying to cultivate more Indigenous folks to do the work, because they have the worldview that it aligns to what we do, right? We make decisions for our community, for our families, and for our people. And we really need our own community members running the businesses, making decisions for us. All of that. So I think it's really critical that we have more of us, because there's just so much work to do. There's so many places that we need to get into to have more representation.
I can't really agree more with you guys. I think that representation is hugely important, and it's so great to see representation for Native Americans on Roosevelt Row, because we've had the Heard Museum up the road for years, but you wouldn't see quite as much modern art there, even though there's so many modern Native artists. And I didn't even realize how many modern Native artists were in the Valley until I had the chance to visit myself. And it was overwhelming just seeing a whole wall of art that just resonated with me on a cultural level. I don't think that's happened to me very often in my life, if ever. So I like to call myself an artist, even though that's mostly taken a back burner to my studies. But what advice do you have for Indigenous artists at any particular level?
What advice do we have for artists? And
we have so much. Oh, we have so much. You know, I think I'm not an artist, right? I'm not an artist, and I'm
But she's a creative.
I'm a creative, but really, I think what I'm seeing and what I try to give a lot of support and advice to is really have faith in yourself and belief in yourself that you have that ability and willingness to be successful, because it's all in us, right? And sometimes we're fearful, sometimes we're scared, sometimes we don't think we're good enough, sometimes we think that whatever reasons, there's all these little thoughts that kind of creep into our head. So my advice for anyone is just like, if you want to start. If you want to dibble dabble in like little pieces and turn your business, your side hustle into a business, just do it. I mean, that's what we're here for. You just got to start. There's a lot of people that are rooting for you, and that you need to just start and do it. So my advice is just be fearless.
Yeah, and my advice, I think, comes from more of the design mind and understanding that along with playing with concepts and really like fleshing them out and being experimental, we got to learn to accept our failures because a lot of times it's from those failures that we really begin to gauge our direction, and we begin to see like what we've tried and what we can move on to. Excuse me. So that's like the biggest thing for me.
I think that's great advice. And even from a student level, just telling people to get started, whether it's on homework or whether it's just on going back to school, is great advice as well. And so I only prepared a few questions in case we had questions from the audience. I did see Miss Vaughn tune in.
What's going on? Hey, everybody. Sorry I'm late. I had a work Friendsgiving that I had hosted, so I scurried them out, man. No, all the rides came, so 100% attention for you now.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Vaughn. It's good to see you.
You too. Glad I could make it.
So the last question I had before I open it up to the crowd, I wanted to know, what does the future hold for Cahokia? Where do you see it going in 5-10 years from now?
We have big dreams.
Yeah, we do. So Cahokia really just started out like, I mean, bam, right out of the box. It was dynamic, and artists and the community started seeing what they could do to a space like this. And so for us, I think the future is really establishing a governance structure that allows more people to be involved in what happens here, but also like creating more of a retail business that where it can be sustaining itself and has its doors open almost throughout the whole week. We also want to start looking into buying land and actually building a building that would have office space and creative spaces involved in it. And like it would be a hub of social entrepreneurism in a very dynamic way where people could rent out things that would allow them to grow, allow us to grow as a community and be in that same space, do events like this, but also be autonomous, right, and operate within our own little realms. And so that's a big dream of ours. We don't know how far. I think we said 3 years, and now we're just like, oh my God, it's really like moving quickly. And so we're just excited for what the future holds, and we're also very open. One thing that me and Melody always say is like, we have a lot of faith, like between us two, especially us not having like a full-fledged plan and like how it's going to happen. We just know that we are in the right spot. We are creating like this whole vibe of voices, and people are responding, and it's a need. So how can we start, I guess, amping that up and feeding that fire? So I think that's the coolest thing from this, is that we're learning to have faith in each other and trust each other in our personal directions and like how we want to inspire others.
So if I were to be like, really like, this is what we're gonna have in like 3 to 5 years is we're gonna have maybe, I'm gonna say 2 more Cahokia somewhere out there in the world that are amplifying their own communities in another urban setting. We're going to have our own lands with their own space that's 2 stories high that looks like Churchill. And then we have all these different mini stores and offices and restaurants, and every single person there is Indigenous. And so that's our goal. That's what we're going to do. We're going to continue to support Indigenous creatives and entrepreneurs. We have this goal in our head to do 1,000 Indigenous creatives and entrepreneurs in the next, I don't know, 3 years. And we just want to help and support others in their space. So that's what we got going on here in Cahokia.
I'll have to put in my application soon. Miss Vaughn, did you have any questions? You always have something great to say.
Well, actually, I just want to give props, because like you were saying, this space that you created for our voices have been dormant for so long. And I don't really want to say dormant, but just really unheard, and bringing to light these Indigenous opportunities just creates a whole new path. And it's a new path that we can make bigger and wider for everyone that comes after us, And with all of us working together and having the same plan, the same goal in mind, it's just going to be tremendous, So I'm just so excited and so happy for you for the goals and the opportunities that we're going to have to look forward to in the future because of this space that you have created. So I'm just happy to be here, living in this time and sharing it with you and knowing you and just supporting you. So just mad props for all of that.
Thank you, Ms. Vaughn. That was so nice. We appreciate your support on all the things that you're doing here. Little do you know that you're a role model to me. I've been watching what you're doing over there at Grit TV, and it was pretty awesome. But I think also for us, we're just, we knew it was needed, so we just tried it, and here we are. And FYI, we're having a second author market. We just advertised today. December 1st Friday.
December 1st Friday, and
It's
people
bigger.
are excited, and it's going outside. It's gonna be cool. I just love the fact that I can walk into a space and I'm surrounded by the Indigenous community, right? And it just feels like you take off, that burden of living in this world, and you're able to just be with community as you are. And I really think that those sort of safe spaces are needed. And it also comes with a lot of empowerment opportunities. So we just want to be able to foster that and continue to grow it, and just be here just as a support system, whether it's encouraging others and inspiring others, or maybe showing them the way and doing workshops, or maybe just offering the space for one of their cool event ideas. So there's always we can collaborate.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that then, because when you see for me, because I'm Autumn from Gila River, and when I see a certain art, I just know right, like Palmelina, I know his art right off top, the dreamt one, afterthoughts, I know that right off top, and to see that in art spaces is just so spectacular, and you just feel like this bond with it, you're just, it's just like it's specifically there for you. You can go to other art and really admire it and see the beauty in it, but when you see your people's art, it just has that heartfelt bond and connection that's just that's my people.
So true.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah, so I'll definitely share that information, help promote it and stuff. So I look forward to it, because I missed the last one. I had to do other stuff, but I was able to help, I volunteered, try to do what I could just to show support and stuff. So I'm looking forward to actually being able to be there and shop and stuff.
volunteered at the most crazy event we had.
Yeah. But we were so thankful we had help, honestly.
And Tyler, thank you so much again for asking us to be on here. We just can't. We want to share the message far and wide.
Thank you so much for being here with us. I think what you and Ms. Vaughn said about the community just craving a space like this is so true. And just the success you guys have had so far, it seems like every event here streaming is just packed to the brim. Shows that and not just the Native community has been wanting it, but the greater community has been wanting it. I've had the pleasure of being at a few different events for this Native American Heritage Month, and what's really touched me are the people outside of our community that want to hear our voices and want to know that how they can help. Is there anything else you ladies would like to add before we wrap things up? Any upcoming events you'd like to plug?
Yeah, there's obviously the First Friday events that we have, and also December is going to be packed full of events. So if you're not following us right now, please follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. We are at Cahokia PHX. We are also asking the community to be part of the growth, and $10, $20, any sort of amount that you can donate goes a long way, because what we end up doing is we pay our artists, we pay our collaborators, we pay people who want to contribute, because as much as we want this to be a community-led space, we also think that it's right to pay for skill sets that are professional. And so that's something that we're trying to fold into this as well. So your money goes a long way. It spreads out more than just to the vendors and just to operating the space. It actually goes back into the community.
And then I just want to give a shout out to our members and ambassadors that have contributed to the space. We're 100% community led. Unique and I don't make the decisions, our members do. And so I just want to say how so much gratitude and grateful for having a team at the table, and then especially to all of our supporters, everyone that's just cheering us on. You have no idea how much it means to us. Sometimes we're like, What day is it? What time is it? So we appreciate, everyone supporting us and volunteering and just everything. We're so grateful. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Ms. Vaughn, for showing up and your wonderful contribution to the discussion.